approach there from Neko. Jonak from downtown.
And there is a final blow from Swoosh, actually. Oh, Vic gets 2 actually on that Widowmaker.
First tick done for New York, and it looks like they're not showing any signs of slowing down.
And the kills continue to pile in here for Florida.
It's going to be just an all-out slaughter here as New York is just picking up the kill.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Desk. I'm Golden Boy, your host, and I'm super pumped for this game because it will be the Florida Mayhem taking on my home team of the New York Excelsior. But once again, we are joined by the ever so amazing Zoe here at The Desk, and then we also have Sideshow and Brent.
They were all right.
We are still
We're okay.
We're doing all right.
You know, you're doing good. You're doing good. All right. Well, you know, I love these guys, but I got to move on with the show here, so I'll get to you in a little bit.
Thank you.
But let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule here and what we have in store. So it was the Philadelphia Fusion going up against the Boston Uprising. That was a 4-0 win for the Uprising, which will sit them comfortably in 3rd place, plus knocking out the LA Valiant. So a lot of drama there. And then we have Florida Mayhem and NYXL, and then the match of the night, the London Spitfire versus the Houston Outlaws. But first, let's go ahead and welcome to the stage the Florida Mayhem. You know, oh my God, that's the purple cobra. Yes, that's from Dodgeball. That's from Dodgeball. Yes. Oh man.
I'm glad you're so excited by it.
You don't understand. Florida Mayhem may have just won my heart with that one right there.
They've been winning the walkout meta game since they've been starting Overwatch League. That's the best thing about this team is they're coming out with fresh new moves for me to throw it in the dance clubs all over LA.
Throwing shapes.
Throwing shapes, as they
Yes,
say.
and as you said, that is the best thing about this team right now.
Okay.
I think if Dallas Fuel weren't in the Overwatch League right now, this would be the most disappointing team in the league. They were the 2nd best team in Europe in November, just before the Overwatch League started, and they've gone downhill fast so far throughout Stage 1.
Buzzkill.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you there, but the reason it's so disappointing is because we've seen this team actually perform. We've seen this team play to a high potential, a high level before Contender Season 1, you know, flashbacks to the Grand Finals against Giganti when this team was known as Misfits, and now, like, they're sat at the bottom, but we know they can perform. We know Tavik and Logics can turn up and bring the pain to these teams.
I like that, and you know what though, and Zoe, I wanted to get your thoughts there in a little bit, but we're going to talk about it in a few because there's a lot to talk about with Florida.
There is.
But we'll get to that in a second because I've been waiting to say this for a very long time, sitting from my home in Brooklyn. Let's go ahead and make some noise. Coming to the stage, the NYXL. And the NYXL have been dominant, and they have their eyes set on the playoffs. Bren, is there a chance, or are they underestimating Florida?
There's a high likelihood, to be honest, because New York Excelsior, coming into this, they're going to be prepping for the playoffs, right? These guys are almost firmly set in a position for the playoffs on Saturday. So there's a chance that they're not prepped for Florida. Florida can take it away from them, can skirt it away from them. However, this is the number 2 seed team versus the number 11. So it's kind of unlikely, but there's a chance. There's a chance.
Yeah, and talking about the strengths of New York XL as well, they really do deserve this spot, the number 2 or potentially number 1 seed. They are, in my eyes, the best team suited to the meta at the moment. They have to capitalize while the supports are so strong, and Ark and Jonak are so perfect at being able to work together. But in this game, they also have to try and protect strategies when they go into the playoffs, so we'll see.
Yeah, talking about strategies, we've seen Pine being in the lineup, and they so far haven't really done that when they played against a very strong opponent, because if you see Pine, you know what to expect from that team. But if we're looking at the overall NYXL squad, they just have such high caliber substitution players that everyone is kind of their A-team, really. So I'm interested to see what they're going to play if they want to protect their strats.
And so real quick though, because I did want to ask you this question about Florida beforehand. I know we're talking about New York here, but I do got to get this question forward. Florida, this is clearly a team that's prepping for Stage 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, they're going to be very happy with the Stage 2 changes we're going to have with the recent patches, with the recent nerfs to Mercy. They're going to be a lot more confident going into that. Sebozai has been doing really great on the Mercy. Great on the Mercy as much as you. I'm sorry, but he's
cold-blooded.
No, but see, the thing with Sebozai is, like, he's usually their shot caller, and on the Mercy, it's hard to fill that position. going back to the Lucio, that will enable the shot calling for him a little bit more. And also they're going to have Zappis joining them in at the stage 2. And that's going to open up a lot more diversity for that lineup.
Yeah, and a great point indeed. And I'm looking forward to seeing this team perform in stage 2. It's going to be, we know what they're capable of. We mentioned it before. But back over to NYXL here, because they had actually a closer than expected match against Dallas. Did Dallas expose any weaknesses from this NYXL roster?
So I wouldn't say that they exposed weaknesses, but they certainly had a stylistic matchup that didn't work the best for the NYXL. Dallas play quite a slow defensive style, and the NYXL also play quite slow and defensive, so that gave enough space for Dallas to be able to make use of it. But NYXL are so good at playing around these two players here. Their support duo, Jonak and Arc. Arc will often be found damage boosting Jonak to be able to build up his transcendences faster. Arc's got a great sense of the game and which ultimates need to be used in certain fights, and they're very good at being able to absorb enemy dives. This could open a bit of a path for Florida though, because they have a similar kind of style. So there's not going to be as much pressure applied, but they're great at playing defensively.
Yeah, in general, I'm going to be agreeing with that point, because that's the style that Florida like to play, is sort of the passive dive. That's what they've been drifting towards more and more as this season has progressed, as this league has progressed. And it hasn't been their comfort zone, for sure, right? Contenders is a team that were very pick-orientated. Logix was in the backlines, making openings on Tracer. You can't really see that with the Mercy meta that we're currently seeing. But they're playing into New York Excel, and that's a team that do like to play passive. Like you said, they like to absorb the dive into the backlines, sort of take the brunt force of it. That could work in Florida's favor.
What, so I know you had a moment to catch up with the coaches from Florida. What's going on over there?
Well, I actually asked them if they want to take the Dallas Fuel approach and just play to their own strength and kind of ignore the meta or even your opponent, not really trying to come up with some fancy strategies to like catch them off guard. They said that obviously they want to play their own game. They want to be able to dictate the tempo, and they also are unfortunately very aware that against NYXL, they do need a lot of adaptability during in-game moments, as NYXL can switch it up fairly easily. So I think this is something they practice a lot. They told me that they have been working on that adapting in-game kind of thing, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough against NYXL.
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, very, very tough for Florida in this matchup without a doubt. But there's always a chance, right? That remember, this is the former Misfits, one of the best teams coming out of Europe. I will forever have my faith in this team, regardless of what happens in the meta, because I've always been a big fan of Tivik and those guys. So now on the NY side, we usually see Sebiobi playing here, but this time we're getting Pine. And Sideshow, what are the differences between those two players? What do they bring to the table that could throw Florida off?
Well, we were talking about consistency earlier on in terms of DPS, and Sabiobi has been one of the best, most consistent players on Tracer in particular. He's able to shut down things and play defensive. Pine is the opposite. Pine is going to go for huge flanks. Pine is going to trust his mechanical skill and go for crazy 1v1s. Pine is just confidence incarnate when he plays these heroes. And that also means that there's a big chance to shut him down, because when he goes for stuff like this, if it whiffs, he's just wasted a pulse bomb. Or when he goes for a weird flank and takes that 1v1, if he loses it, they're down a man. So they're playing a much riskier style here against Florida Mayhem. That could be Florida's in. Shut down Pine, make it 5v6, see if you can go from there. Because if you give him space, this guy can blow up.
All right, well, can you see Florida potentially shutting this down and shutting down the dreams of New Yorkers everywhere?
I mean, I can see it happening. I don't think it'll happen today.
Okay.
I can imagine it happening, but with a fairly low likelihood. Everything would have to work so perfectly here for Florida. I think overall New York, one of the best teams that we've got going at the moment, I think they're going to take this one. But they have to kind of take it in a convincing fashion to look good for the playoffs as well.
Okay, well, quickly, who are you going for? NY?
Who am I going for?
Just
I'm going to make you happy. New York Excelsior.
Zoe?
4-0 New York Excelsior.
It seems it's across the board, and I'm loving it. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and get ready for our next matchup. It's going to be the NYXL facing off against the Florida Mayhem. And let's send it over to some amazing commentators. We have none other than Monty and Doa.
We're so amazing. Thank you, Golden Boy. That's right. But we're not as amazing as New York Excelsior or Florida Mayhem. We admit it. It's going to be a fun match, though. Florida 1-7, New York 7-1. You know, it's going to be tough for Florida a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But that said, if New York can win this one, they will secure their spot in the the playoffs here on Saturday. So there's a reason to play hard.
I guess so, Don.
Yeah.
But they are starting Pine, and the only other time
Hey.
that we saw Pine get started was against the Shanghai Dragons. So I think that, the Excelsior may be sending a bit of a message here, besides the
Sure.
fact that they do have a very tough match on Saturday against the London Spitfire, and they may be saving Sabielby for that particular game. I think that's definitely a wise strategic move. You can always sub him back in if you need him.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see some Janice coming in a little bit later for New York, too. They've been liking to use him once in a while in these types of situations. We're going to get things started here on Eichenwald. And looks like Florida will be on the attack first.
And this map pool is a bit grim for Florida overall. They've been at their best on Dorado. We are going to have Junkertown to round out this match. On Eichenwald and Horizon, our first two matches, Florida has yet to win any of these maps. So it will be an uphill battle, not only in terms of what we've seen from these teams on the maps, but also just in terms of the map type itself. So
Sure. Well, we'll see what they can do anyway. Florida looking for a few picks here, maybe. They got Logics on the McCree. Tvik going to be on that far, of course, like you'd often expect on Eichenwald and New York. Yeah, it's going for some picks themselves. Mecco on that Roadhog. Definitely been one of the best Roadhogs we've got here in Overwatch League over the last few weeks.
I think he absolutely is the best. I think Mecco right now is the best flex tank in the world. He has been amazing both on the Roadhog and the Diva. And
Yeah.
what I've been loving about the New York Excelsior and why I think they are going to go ahead and take our Stage 1 championship is that they have just mastered all of the best strategies right now. Orisa Roadhog, they can play defensive. They're great at using the Tracer. They're really maximizing the benefit, as Sideshow noted on the desk, of getting the damage out of their Zenyatta. And when Jonak, with his mechanics and his aim, goes unpressured with a damage boost, and Sabielby's chasing off the other DPS, their support line is safe, and Jonak basically just is a DPS, as that sign in the audience said, and he will get a ludicrous number of kills.
Well, it's so hard to dive that guy, too, because he's just going to kill you. Florida taking no time at all to move in here, and Tvik actually gets a kill onto Jonak right off the bat.
You cursed him, though.
I know, right? Hey, it wasn't me. You were talking about him, too, man. Mecco in a little bit of trouble here. Art gets the res onto Jonak, so he's back in action, of course. And now Florida has to find a way to advance here. They're going to go in, trying to stay behind Swoosh's shield, but it's getting burst down really quick.
These are the standard strategies we've seen from both of these teams. On Eichenwald, Florida does like to go for the Orisa and the slow push in. Pine is going to fall. There is not a resurrection available right now, so Florida's poking is working out.
Yeah, nice dodge from Logics to avoid that hook to a moment ago.
There we go. Pine actually
ready to go.
The res did come up before the
Mecco.
respawn, but that one's not coming back.
Yeah, that's right. Mecco's going to be dead for a while here unless they can get up that
Pine was
Valkyrie
booped
soon.
off the map on the flank.
Well, Tvik got the kill on a Mano, too. And I'm thinking it's looking okay here for Florida right now. There it goes, Arc, and they are going to just steamroll point A, it looks like.
And that is the feast or famine style of Pine. He was walking around the side for a solo flank. If you're ready for Pine to do that on the McCree, he can put himself in vulnerable positions. Tvik catches him towards the side of the map, uses that concussive blast, knocks him off, and Florida Mayhem able to easily roll through that point, so plenty
You're wrong,
of time
though, Monty.
on the clock.
You're wrong because Pine is evergreen.
Yes, I suppose.
I'm so sorry. Florida peeking over the top here as they get started on point B. Tvik looking for an air-to-air. Ooh, he lands one on the Libero. Gets a little bit of healing here. The nice thing for New York Excelsior is that they do have both of their support ultimates up, and Florida does too, but NYXL in a good spot to get some defense going here.
They're trying to push forward a bit. They have swapped Mecco over to the Diva just so they can play with the high ground a bit more on point B. Makes a lot of sense.
A bit more stable.
Yeah, Pine also be delaying this payload around the side. Libero is playing pretty far forward. And no real movement on the payload so far.
And not yet. Manatee getting demeched and taken out doesn't really help them in that regard. Trying to get that payload moving. Now Tvik going in after Libero here on board with Zupa as he fires into Manatee here. Kills coming in for Florida though, so far so good. There's a barrage into the air. He's trying to find the Mercy but can't quite get the kill. Tvik looking to just swat Arc out of the sky, but can't quite do it. His team, though, picking up the slack, and that payload is moving.
Tvik is really the hero of this map so far. The number of kills he's been able to get, he's currently sitting at 26% of his team's damage. Logic's also doing quite well. So Logic's, a lot of Florida has depended on whether Logic's has a good game or not. And right now, he's providing the necessary oomph to really push this team over, get the supports of New York, and the payload will just keep on moving. They've nearly got it through already. Mono dead again.
Wow, Tvik with yet another pick here. Libero manages to find the kill on the Logic at least, but that payload still going strong. They've nearly got it to the end of point B here. Tvik in a little bit of trouble, dodging the rockets coming in from Libero. Has to back off for the moment. Swoosh does go down, and Manitin catches Mana with the self-destruct. Looks like Florida gonna keep a little bit of pressure on, but I think they may have lost a few too many people here.
Yeah, they're gonna try and use that self-destruct New York just to push them back right now. Tvik is causing a lot of problems by continuing to shoot rockets in towards the payload.
Yeah.
And they don't really have a great tool to deal with that. Libero has been unable to win a lot of these duels. Finally, Jonak is gonna start showing up on the kill feed.
There we go. All right, so a bit of stability finally for New York Excelsior. Florida Mayhem making a really strong first push here. They really haven't stopped since point A. Finally stalled out though now.
And now they're gonna switch over to the Tracer. So Logix wants to be able to cross this bridge easily and make sure that they can actually reach the payload here as time is running a bit short with only 2 minutes left.
Yep, makes sense. New York putting together a decent delay here on point B. We don't see the payload stopped on B as much as on some other maps.
Libero has the barrage. They're poking them as they come in right now, forcing them to slowly move forward and draining that time off the clock.
And Zebasai has nearly got his Valkyrie up here again. Ooh, shot in the air onto Tvik. Can he finish him off? Ooh, Tvik still very low here. That's going to be the Valkyrie coming in from Zebasai here. Tvik goes down, gets brought back up again. Meanwhile, Pine in the back lines, looking for a couple kills here. Trying to run for his life, though. Finally gets back. Oh, he doesn't get to the health pack. Logic picking him off.
Arc still holding onto his Valkyrie, though. Zebasai used his, and New York fell back and still got a couple of kills as a result. So they're going to wait for Pine to respawn. They are not committing to the Valkyrie use yet. They want to save this to the last possible second.
Yeah, we do see Zebasai be a bit trigger happy on the Valkyrie sometimes. Jonak pops that Transcendence. Blocking the door, it looks like.
Wow,
actually.
body blocking them in there.
Nice. Zupa in a little bit of trouble in the back lines. Yeah, Jonak blocking the door and then coming right back and killing his Zenyatta counterpart.
Swoosh has got to reset immediately. 45 seconds. They've got one push left. That Transcendence, body blocking everybody in that room, preventing the payload from moving and getting the necessary damage down from the rest of his team. So we are going to see Arc still with that Valkyrie, held it throughout that entire engagement. And Tvik is really going to have to come up big, or Manitin needs to get a self-destruct that takes out these New York supports.
Yeah, this is a push that absolutely needs to work for Florida. And Swoosh popping that Primal Rage. He got a little bit low up on the ramparts now. The rest of his team diving in.
He's trying to deal with Jonak. He actually pushes Jonak into Zupe. So an initial kill going well for Florida.
Yeah, but Arc has been saving that Valkyrie for so long. He finally used it, brings Jonak right back up again. They're going to use the self-destruct to take down Zebasai. Uh-oh, and there are the kills for New York coming in. Only Swoosh left and he gets taken out. That will be where the payload stops for Florida.
That was a good play by New York to end that round. What they did was they waited until they threw the self-destruct next to Jonak's Omnic body before they used the Valkyrie to resurrect him, so he wasn't immediately killed again.
Right.
Because he had been punched by Swoosh into the front line where he died of the Florida Mayhem. So giving him that cover, and that means that they have a successful hold here after a very fast initial push by the Mayhem.
Yep, true enough. It was a quick point A, but Excel stabilizing a bit on B, and now it is going to be their chance to attack, and in a good position certainly to take this map.
Yes, they are. We'll see what they can do with Pine. Pine did play Tracer when they were up against Shanghai on the attack here, so the typical Pharah Tracer combination that we see, even though we don't think of Pine typically as a Tracer player, at least when it comes to his best plays on Widow and McCree that we've seen from him in the Overwatch League.
He certainly showed us some pretty fun stuff on Tracer last time we saw him, so he's got it in him, that's for sure.
You saw coming in that triple blink pulse bomb drop was certainly a stylish way to play the high ground on Anubis.
And nobody sees that one coming.
And Zube will be on Ana.
Okay. I suppose it's a way to kind of keep things a little bit more intense in the back lines. If you go ahead and nano boot Swoosh, he jumps in there with the Winston.
Yeah, and it can punish the Orisa Roadhog combination with that Bio Grenade, but if Meko plays with the D.Va instead, he'll have a chance just to defense matrix the Biotic Grenade and won't be as effective as the Mayhem would like.
Well, Zupa too can be, you know, part of what takes Libero out of the sky on that Pharah as well. He can help out Tvik a little bit in that category. Let's see what works out. Pine, ooh, taking some shots. He's on that Widowmaker for now. Trying to find a shot. Ooh, nearly gets Sebasai. Gets him about halfway down, but that's going to be it. He's going to swap back over onto the Tracer.
And Mono is going to be on the Roadhog right now, so they don't know the Ana's in this game yet. They are going to see it shortly. It'll be interesting to see how much they respect Zube's Ana. For now, though, it's just playing around the tower in the center, trying to poke in, maybe get a Roadhog hook. It's all about patience right now for New York. They want to play with the halt, they want to play with the chain hook to get a pick off.
Tvik picked out of the air by Libero. He's going to get Sebasai as well, so that already is tragic for Florida. Logix comes back with a strike on the Pine. Meanwhile, Mono back over to the choke rather. But again, you know, with Sebasai falling so early, it's not going to be tough for New York to get a lot of progress here on this point. I don't know if Florida can contest this.
The question is whether Zube's going to switch or not. He may just want to get the nano boost off and then switch after his next death instead. And looks like that's going to be it. But New York with a convincing first push as we take a look at Libero right here, where he got the 2K with the damage boost up. There's one shot with the damage boost.
Wow.
Two shot with the damage boost.
Yep, that works. So, NYXL moving the payload now, 5 minutes left for them. Pine being kind of sneaky, doesn't have his ultimate yet. You know, Manitin does find the kill onto Jonak, you can see on the kill feed, but not before Jonak claims yet another Tracer victim. Oh, Pine coming in onto Zupa, gets hit with the Biotic Grenade. Zupa backing off, that's not much help left, and Mano there to finish him off. Now Swoosh jumps in a bit late to save his support, and Sebasai kind of left hanging a little bit. Pulse Bomb comes in, and I think he got the stick even on Sebasai. Pine lighten up these supports on the Florida side.
And now Swoosh is going to come out of his Primal Rage. He will be the next one to fall. Jonak, of course, cleaning things up as we normally see, and he will be the one designated to move this payload. Arc still with the Valkyrie in play right now. Be falling out of that ultimate, and Libero just going to try and delay the members of the Florida Mayhem as long as he can, coming out of these choke points, harassing them through the small window. Tvik is through.
So they're pushed really far up here. Sebasai joining Tvik. Another shot onto him. Libero getting a little bit low though. Has to be careful. Arc did fall. Tvik found that kill.
Great shots.
Play it safe.
Yeah, great shots by Tvik to kill Arc right now, and that's going to prompt New York to back off this payload all the way back towards their spawn.
Yep. Zupa did switch over to that Zenyatta a little while ago.
Yeah, good late staggers on Pine and Jonak from Florida. They've got still so much time that they have to bleed out of New York, and even those 10 or 20-second resets can be seriously helpful.
Yeah.
My ultimate is charging.
Absolutely. Well, New York nearly done resetting. Trying to get back into it. Manitin, though, coming in. He's got that self-destruct, jumping in with Swoosh, putting a lot of pressure, forcing out the Transcendence from Jonak. That's something. Pops his self-destruct as he will get demeched. Oh, Swoosh going down, though. The tank's starting to fall. Manitin back in the mech again. Libero in a lot of trouble here. That's going to be a kill. And now Meko kind of on his own. So Florida grinding out another team fight win.
And New York's going to be okay with this. They still have plenty of time left over. Arc is going to hit another Valkyrie very soon, and Sebasai used his as they attacked right at the choke point right now. Mono's still up. Pine's going to make it back with the rest of his team.
Yep.
And here we go. This is New York on a big push right now, and that's a great way to start it off. Libero with a kill onto Tvik.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Swoosh trying to get in the back lines. He's going to go Primal Rage. Sebasai falling immediately, though, to Pine. Zupa going to go ahead and use his Transcendence for the moment, but not a lot of people there to heal. Logix taken out, and that payload is nearly there. Swoosh, his body gets there, but you need to be alive to stop that payload, man. That's going to be New York taking Eichenwald.
And when you're coordinating so well with your Pharah and around the Zenyatta orb on the enemy, you can really get those fast pickoffs. They don't even need the Valkyrie. to push their way through towards the end of B and go ahead and take Eichenwald.
Yep, a couple good fights for Florida throughout.
Good fights.
A couple good fights throughout that. I don't know.
You went Uber there for a second.
I guess, I'm not sure. It was part Uber, part Brent. So I just woke up, I swear. It's esports morning, guys. New York awake and already taking names as they have taken down Florida here on Eichenwald. And so, quick break, and we will be back with map 2 right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
I'm Hong Yeon-jun, also known as ARK, and I play for Team New York Excelsior.
This is New York spinning out of control.
I was in a Yonsei University, which is quite famous in Korea, and I started for nursing there. I stopped out after I started playing Overwatch as a professional.
Whoa! From behind, ARK swoops in.
My goal is just to win the tournament, like first season, second season, first, third season, yeah, and keep going on.
New York Excel, they have done it, and they are the new kings of Overwatch League.
2 teams, Valiant, and I think Seoul.
Defeating the Seoul Dynasty, does that make you the best team in this league?
Of course.
Of course, there you have it!
Yeah, I think it's cool that I can come here and play as a pro player in the best league in the world, yeah.
And welcome back, guys. Well, what do you know? He studied nursing and then he became a Mercy main. The story of our... It all makes sense now.
He heals you out of game and in game.
I guess so, yeah.
That's great. I talked to Ark for a couple hours last week. Really fun to chat with this guy. Talked a lot about New York strategy when they put in Pine, as we touched on the desk, when they're looking for that more explosive, aggressive player versus Saebjelby, who's the more defensive player on this roster. But regardless, I think what we can say about Ark and Jonak is that they are the best support duo in this meta. They have really figured out how to maximize the damage of Jonak and the damage of that Zenyatta by damage boosting him and making sure that their positioning is always in a place for them to get the big pickoff kills to start fights.
It's a good experience for Ark too, right? Because when Saebjelby's in there, it's kind of like working in a regular clinic, and then when Pine's in there, it's like working in the emergency room, you know? It gets much more exciting.
Yeah, talking to him too, he said that his style actually has to change quite a bit depending on whether it's Pine or Saebjelby, because they do have to give Pine more healing and more resources because of his heavy flank, heavily aggressive style, just to make sure that he stays alive. But the upside of that is Pine can make some absolutely jaw-dropping plays.
Well, he pulls his weight, right? I mean, he is risky and he does take more damage, but in the process, he gets a ton of crazy kills and big picks that certainly have helped his team out on maps like Ilios.
Yeah, and we are going to see Ilios, fortunately for us, later in this set, which is the most impressive map for Pine that we've seen thus far. But first up, it will be Horizon, a map which the Mayhem are 0-3 on right now. New York Excelsior 2-2, so not New York's best map by any means, but still coming up winless here for Florida.
Oxygen farm. You know, I remember my days back on the oxygen farm. Wisconsin is growing air. Yeah.
Is that what you did up there in your youth?
That's right, yep. We grew that air like there was no tomorrow.
Well, I haven't been a big fan of the Florida Mayhem's compositions on this map. They have run some interesting attacks with Tracer and Pharah, and I'm overall not a fan of Pharah on this map, particularly when many teams run the Widowmaker on defense. It will be Pine on the McCree here this time around, and Tvik will be going over to the Sombra.
Okay. Well, Pine certainly wants to be ready for these flanks that are going to come in Florida. Yeah, looking like they're going to run that Sombra. Pine going to be all ready for that flank, perhaps the hacked health path.
Yeah, we'll see which side they're going to go around. Logix has actually had a very good day so far. I really like the way he's playing. He's been an inconsistent player to say the least, but he's been playing well against Pine and winning a lot of these Tracer duels. So we'll see what he can do. It's actually, as you can see, the Sombra on the right-hand flank right now. They're going to go ahead and take the high ground over the point, but New York's not going to let them take this mini health back. And they know Tvik's there. Tvik is just going to get ready. The hammered after the flashbang.
Yeah, Pine more than prepared for Tvik back there. Mano manages to get the kill onto Logix. You got to watch out for Zebasai's Widowmaker, but for now, New York holding strong.
Yeah, and they're not able to really get any of the angles that they want to either. We'll see if they stick with this Sombra. No, they will swap over to the Junkrat.
Yeah, still running that triple DPS though. Zebasai over on the Widowmaker, a pick we see him pull out once in a while.
Yeah.
Is it too risky though? I wonder. We'll see what they can get done with this Junkrat.
Yeah, triple DPS look though that historically these players have favored.
Yeah.
And Zebasai has at times played DPS for previous incarnations of this roster.
True. Trying to come into the point right now. But New York, pretty safe behind the Orisa shield, and Pine going for one of those Pine flanks.
He's creeping. He's the creeping cowboy.
Creeping cowboy. Yeesh. Oh, Tvik and Liberal, both Junkrats taken out of commission. Super brings his back though. Zebasai needs to watch out though. Pine lining up those shots, but he's okay for the moment. Florida though, on the point, they have pushed New York back, and with those kills, they're in a great position to take point A here.
Yeah, Florida today overall has been doing a good job of slow pushing. We saw it on Eichenball Day, we saw it here. They've been playing a very patient game of Overwatch, slowly moving New York off the point, and then after that, they're able to get a couple of quick picks and push New York all the way back to B. So they're going to be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah. Zebasai still on that Widowmaker, gonna stick with it for the moment.
Tavik actually on the Sombra here for point B, so another quick switch up. Tavik is going to run around, scout the point right now. He is currently on the point itself.
Well, speaking of swaps, Pine over on the Widowmaker now. Gets his first kill onto Logix here. The Riptire from Libero didn't get a whole lot in the meantime. So now Tavik, can he get to this health pack and hack it?
He's not looking to it. He's right now he's trying just to find people, find Pine, translocate back out, get some healing from the mega health pack. So he hasn't gone around to the side to get the mini yet. It's all about waiting for this EMP. So Florida's being smart. They know that the support ults are up for New York Excelsior, so they don't really want to commit right now.
Yeah.
But they might after getting Libero.
Well, I mean, you can at least maybe try to force a few out here. There's the self-destruct coming in for Mano, so that's one ultimate down. Arc brings Libero back up into action again. Manitin still sitting on his self-destruct. Swoosh all over the place with that Primal Rage right now. Zebasai low health, trying to find those shots. Oh, but Libero finds him, gets two in the back lines actually on that Tracer now. Make it three as Swoosh falls. And so Libero just kind of taking matters into his own hands.
A creative combo, though, from the Florida Mayhem, because they get a tick and nearly get two, and that was a result of a hacking three members of the New York Excelsior and them dropping the self-destruct onto the point at the same time. So everybody had to run for cover off the point. There wasn't a way to block it with a Winston shield or provide any other barrier to that line of sight, and they get a tick off of it. So they have time, and going slowly, methodically, tick by tick, can be an effective strategy.
Vic coming in to harass a little bit. Meanwhile, Libero, you can see him sneaking around the outside there on the right side of your screen. Might come in behind Zebasai. We'll find out. Meanwhile, Jonak in a relatively safe place in the back. That's usually where he likes to hang out. I hesitate saying things like that because usually if I say a player is safe, they immediately die. And now, yep, oh, Arc. Okay, well, it's not Jonak at least. Arc, though, dove successfully. Vic finds him. Meanwhile, Zupa popping that Valkyrie, trying to keep everybody on his team up. Pine comes back again. No, Pine taken out by Zebasai. And Florida's on the point right now. Libero looking for some kills on Manitin. They get the D-Mech at least. And Meko being spot healed by Arc for the moment. Gonna go up on the high ground. Get pushed around, though, by Winston. Zupa, oh, taken out as he tries to fly across the point. And that's going to be the end of that push for Florida.
It definitely is. Tavik is going to come back with an EMP, however.
Yeah.
Maybe he can get Jonak right off the start, remove those shields, and get the one-clip kill onto him. Now, Florida Mayhem, they were looking for that opportunity onto the point itself that time, but they couldn't find it because New York was playing the stall-out game extremely effectively, making sure they weren't really ever going to be able to get back up to the second point, alternating those members.
You can see Pine not taking those shots on the tank. Doesn't want to give any more ult charge over to Zupe. He's going to wait, trying to find some juicier targets. Now firing at Swoosh as he comes in. Gets to safety here, looking for another flank on the side. Oh, that was a shot on Zupe. He wishes he would have been able to hit. Meanwhile, Meko is going to get demeched again. Florida with a couple good early kills here as they try to take this one. Tavik gets Pine, and they've nearly got it here. It's going to be very close. EMP coming in at the very end. Arc falls, and maybe, no, Mano can't hold it. They've nearly got it already. It's all on Libero to try and defend as long as he can. Meko demeched almost instantly. And Libero, how long can he last? Not long, and Florida will take it with 2:10 left in the time bank. Pretty solid attack run for them.
Absolutely, and what I like about what Florida was doing there is, again, they were playing around those ultimates, particularly self-destruct and EMP, to chip away at the point. And you get EMP up so quickly that it doesn't really matter if you only get one tick or two ticks every time you do that, because it's only a couple of pushes, and then you can clear it out and end your attack run with quite a bit of time left. So Florida has been showing up today. I think they've been playing a very conservative style, a more measured style, but finally they're having some success.
Well, like you mentioned earlier, I think the thing that stands out is just how methodical they look. Everything they do looks very well planned. You're not kind of seeing this crazy disjointed dive that we've kind of gotten used to. It's a very solid looking Florida today.
Yeah, the downside of their style is it can take a while to set up for these points, so you have to make sure that on your big attacks, on your big pushes, that they are successful, but they managed to do that. And New York, I don't think they've been conservative enough. This is going to be, I think, a long-range duel between these two teams as we head into the rest of this match. And I think New York really needs to think about, are we are we poking too much? Are we giving them too much support ult? Because a lot of times it's Florida playing around those ult charges, and you may need to just sit and stare at each other for a while.
You know, to a certain extent, I suppose Pine does kind of draw New York out of their normal style. You know, they're known as the defensive team, right? And Pine doesn't really let your team play in a defensive way overall. So despite the heroics that Pine can show us, it does kind of derail New York a little bit from their usual game plan.
It does, and it also forces more of Ark's attention onto Pine as opposed to Jonak. So you're in a situation where you're going to have less of the damage boost on Zenyatta.
It's a very good point.
A little bit riskier positioning for the Mercy.
Oh, Florida on the defense here is New York. Gonna try to advance here. See what they can do.
All right, the last time we saw New York play this map against Seoul, they did run the Slambulance, so the 4-tank Moira composition, but today they want to run Dive, so interesting. They are going to try and dive onto the high ground. Logix will be on the Widowmaker this time. He knows the Genji's in there. It's going to take the Reflect to get over.
Oh, that was so close.
Nice.
Libero gets grabbed anyway.
It was a good combination of the halt and the chain hook. Pine is still outside in outer space right now. Chased around by Zupe and Zebasai. Manitin is at the other door. They're actually sandwiching him on the outside of the map right now, and they kill him.
I guess so, yeah. Pine made it to space, but never made it back in the base.
No, he didn't. It's actually a clever flank there from the Florida Mayhem.
Oh, and so New York, gonna have to take some time. And wow, Zebasai way ahead on the Valkyrie charge over Arc right now.
Yeah, he'll be feeling confident about that. And the stagger, too, on Pine is huge. He went for the flank again, tried to be cute in outer space. And you can't be cute in outer space, though.
Well, depends. There's situations. Manitin gets a D-Mech on the Meko immediately. Has to duck back, takes a breather. He's going to be okay. Meanwhile, Libero down there, not able to get a lot done on the Genji yet. And that's not gonna really change when he's dead.
He was way too far forward there. Pulse bomb's not going anywhere.
That was a bit of an overly bold move by Pine. You've already lost like half your team. What's the point of throwing out that pulse bomb then? Even if you get the kills, everyone's gonna kind of be resetting at relatively the same speed.
Yeah, New York looks disjointed. Libero was in front of the point on that attack. Pine was outside on the surface of the moon, and they didn't collapse quickly enough, so pretty easy pick for the Mayhem.
Yeah, I mean, you ask a lot, you know, oh, why don't they use Pine every game? He's so good, and he is really good, but you can see he does tend to be a bit disruptive, I think, in helping or letting New York execute things the way they usually want to.
Yeah, this has been a really comfortable defense for Florida.
Oh, yeah. It
as well, another D-Mech right now. Manitin landing all the hooks this time.
Yeah, no, it hasn't even looked hard for Florida. Not yet. Some ults coming up for New York, though, so an opportunity to make a bigger push here in the near future.
And Florida Mayhem still has everything. The only thing they've had to use is the Infrasight from the Widowmaker to see where people are coming in. And again, Meko dies and has to go back to base to respawn. And New York's running out of time. Minute 20. It's going to be 5 ults for Florida. This is a very good defense from the Mayhem.
You know, the funny thing is, though, is that one Dragon Blade can change everything. So New York not out of it just yet. The big dive comes in. They're going to grab Meko again. Oh, nearly got caught out of that halt, but Manitin not landing that hook. Meanwhile, they've got people on the point. Pine going down again. Jonak soon to follow here. And New York kind of falling apart. Florida still not having to use any of those ults. I guess they used a supercharger there.
That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Really good discipline from the Mayhem. Tavik immediately goes down to the point to deal with Pine, who's back capping. And that's what New York has been missing. They've been missing any pressure on the point. And you have to put pressure on the point against this composition, because otherwise they're just going to stand on the high ground and wreck you all day.
Now, Tavik has been handling Pine pretty well when he's come in for that flank to try to put pressure on the point.
Pine's in space again.
Pine
gets the kill on Zebasai, though.
Finally, Zebasai does go down. New York finding a bit of success in this push now. And Florida maybe in a little bit of trouble here. There goes Tavik, taken out by Pine's pulse bomb before he can use his Riptire. Manitin fighting for his life. That's not going to last long. And it looks like New York, with their final attack here on point A, are going to be able to take this one.
And they're going to come back, too, with both of their support ultimates. Zupe had to use his just for a frantic final defense.
Wow.
Pine goes out to the surface of the moon 4 or 5 times, and finally on the last one, he pops out of the airlock and takes out Zebasai.
He was looking for Elon Musk's car out there. He's like, I know it's going to go past at some point. Maybe he didn't see it. Took his anger out on Zeb's side, unfortunately.
Now Tavik taking his
Whoa.
anger out on Jonak and Pine.
Big time revenge, yeah. So Florida with an aggressive defense here, pushing New York back again. But New York, you know, you're okay with this. You've still got a lot of ultimates. You can reset again. Got about 3.5 minutes on the clock.
You know, you'll be feeling super good about that Dragon Blade on the point right now. You have the trance, they do not.
Yeah.
So if you can force them to fight you in the center of this room, you'll be in great shape. But it's a matter of getting there right now, because they need to put pressure on the Logix too. Logix standing in the typical Widowmaker space in the back left corner.
Yep, that's right. Now up on the high ground, New York will go. Libero, with a little bit of reflecting, looking for a chance to use that Dragon Blade. Tavik's Riptire taken out by Libero, so no advantage there from Florida. Meko is demeched again. And now pressure onto Libero. He's got Swoosh on top of him, has to exit out of the fight. Oh, that's a lot of leap damage coming in. Gets roasted. The res comes in though, so Libero with a new lease on life, but they've lost Arc. No, Arc actually using that Valkyrie. Jonak, Meko, Mano all down though, and Florida will continue to hold.
And they've managed to get Soup-based Transcendence back up, so feeling extra good right now. Florida Mayhem have been strong in their defense, strong in their shot calling so far, and New York haven't found any options. I mean, gonna even switch it up. Pine is now going to be on the Widowmaker.
Even if New York is able to take point B here, they won't have a better time than Florida does in the time bank round. So Florida gonna be ahead in that regard no matter how this round ends up. But they may just win it unless New York gets something going quick.
Yeah, Libero creeping around on the low ground. He wants to find an angle on the supports.
Yep, running in the back lines, a little bit of damage onto Managin in the meantime. Backs away, but once again, Swoosh is there. He has completely handled Libero this entire round.
Okay, he didn't need to use the Primal Rage though. They were already backing off.
Mano down. New York tried to get a little bit of control meter built up, but no one was able to actually stay there.
So everybody back now for the New York Excelsior. Zube holding on to his Transcendence yet again, and everybody just sitting on the high ground. Zube happily clogging this doorway with Junkrat grenades.
Yep. He's in the Jake position. Find that. Ooh, there goes Logix. Jonak sniping the sniper. How many times have we seen that? Dragon Blade comes in, but the Riptire right there. Libero getting nothing out of that one. Big taken out by Meko though, so the dive is real from New York. Transcendence comes in for both Zenyatas. This is the fight. This is where New York tries to take it, and they are getting the kills so far. Supa half health, doesn't really have the healing, and they're going to be able to eliminate him soon. Yeah, there we go.
Tavik is out on the Doomfist now, so they're trying to stall this as much as they can.
So you got to do, but Doomfist not going to last too long. New York getting a little bit of momentum going here. On point B, still not even one tick yet. Logic's delaying.
Libero on the high ground. Nobody's trying to kill him on the Soldier 76. He's just raining bullets down onto the point.
Supa down again. Managin, though, being untouched. Does a crazy chicken on the point. The Diva Suit, but he can't stay alive. And it looks like New York slowly grinding this one out. All they need is a little bit more, and they've got it. 1 minute on the time bank for New York Excelsior.
At the end of that, Zebasai did die with the Valkyrie. Tried to use it right after respawning, but just couldn't make it out there in time. So we'll head to time bank. 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. So both teams completing their attack round, and why don't we take a break and take a little listen in to what Florida was talking about as they were taking point B in their first attack.
Set point.
Florida, when everybody's on the same page, the targets tend to drop pretty effectively. So as we go into time bank, Florida are the ones with more time to use.
Absolutely, and this is going to have to be a very quick attack from the side of the New York Excelsior, and previously they've been able to run quad tank. However, that was not with Pine in the lineup, and it was Sabielby who was playing the Roadhog in the quad tank, and I'm not sure Pine can actually effectively swap onto that hero. Now, quad tank is great when you have a limited amount of time, because you can just bruise your way onto the point, and it's not quite as delicate or vulnerable to picks as, say, this Tracer Genji dive comp that they are going with. They are going to have to execute this basically flawlessly.
Much better than they did last time.
well-
And Logic's already with the kill onto Pine. Mano's just like, stops, reconsiders his life.
Logix has been delivering today, though, so good for him stepping up after some lackluster runs here in the Overwatch League.
Yep. Now resetting from New York. Got to get something going here. Oh, and that's when I said something going, I meant something going for New York. But Tvik finding the pick on the Pine.
I mean, they may just have to go without Pine at this stage, Doa.
Yeah, they've got 15 seconds
2
left. It's time to go.
pickoffs is hugely problematic from them. They're going to try and dive the high ground anyway.
Yeah, they retreat immediately.
Oh!
But Jonak now, Logix gets that kill. Oh boy, Arc brings Jonak back, but Swoosh DMX Meko yet again. We are down to just 3 seconds here. Libero trying to keep the point alive here. They're gonna dive in with Mano as well. Everybody in the back, they're all grouped up here. Libero does fall. Maybe Meko can do something. Gets Logix with the Bunny Blaster. The kill's coming in on both sides though. And for the moment,
Meko, get
more the
back,
holding
get
strike
back
to
in the
Vic.
back.
Tvik doing tons of damage right now.
Already has the Riptire. He will take out Arc. Meko finished off in the mini
that's it.
diva, and that's going to be it. Not even a single point taken.
Wow. And now all Florida needs to do is just take the first tick on point A to win Lunar Colony. And I suppose we can say this is quote unquote one of New York's worst maps. They are 2-2 on Lunar Colony overall, but still, Florida really showing up today.
Absolutely they were, and I think this is where New York, when we've seen them play on this map in the past, they are unable to use some of their typical strategies with Pine in the lineup.
Yeah.
So now they're going to be forced to full hold here on point A if they want to even get a tie. Otherwise, Florida can move out and tie this matchup 1-1 in map score.
Oh, Florida has nearly 3 times as much time in their time bank. New York came into it with only a minute, 2 minutes and 49 seconds for Florida Mayhem. So plenty of time to get that first tick. It's gonna have to be a pretty epic defense from NYXL.
And they're already going to be playing the point itself. I know they can't give up any progress, so this does limit your options, because if you try and play high ground, you can get back capped by a Tracer if you get wedged out of the point on the staircase.
All right, see if anyone can achieve success in the climbing gym. That is point A, Florida. On the attack, they've got Tvik back on the Sombra again, so going for a bit of subtle health pack hacking.
I think this is a great choice because you have time to build up that EMP again. That's something that can certainly win you the game. You know they have to play on the point. They can't vacate the point at any moment because you just need that first tick. So why not go for the Sombra? The time left, as well as the defensive strategy that you know they're going to have to take, is certainly helpful for you as an attacking Sombra player.
We're going up onto the high ground now, trying to keep Zebasai protected. Is Manatee, they're going to flank her on the side. Here comes Meko. He's lost his Diva suit pretty quickly in a lot of these fights today.
Pine is on a long flank again, so we can see, trying to suss out where their supports are, but he is nowhere near this engagement, and Logic's trying to find him right now.
Oh, Libero takes on Tvik, but the res is going to come in. Super there to bring his Junkrat back. Florida buying time here as they get ready to move into the point. Everybody move back for the moment. But they haven't really given up too much ground.
Yeah, I'm surprised Tvik switched off to the Junkrat, given the effectiveness of their previous strategy, but
Ooh.
see if he can put the necessary damage into that barrier and into the front line, and
Wow.
certainly Manitin's going to be swinging around.
Yeah, Libero's super low. Logix finishes him off, but Manitin demeched in the process here. Turns on to Meko, gets taken down. There's a res coming in. Can he get back in his mech? We will see. Meanwhile, Swoosh, a little bit on his own here. He's getting the Mercy healing, though, so he's going to be able to stay up for the moment. Meanwhile, Manitin trying to dive that back line one more time. Self-destruct comes in now for Meko. Manitin going to get taken out as he's demeched, and it caught Zupa as well. So that's going to be the end of that attack for Florida. And they have 1 minute remaining.
And they do, Doa, but Jonak is the one who has the Transcendence. Florida's been going for this triple DPS look again, which leaves them with a needing picks if they are going to stop this, because they can't pile onto the point with this composition and win in a fight with that Transcendence. Libero also ready to use that Riptire. It's all about delay right now. Pine harassing Logix in the back line, so Pine continuing on his flank. Libero, when will he pull out the Riptire?
We will see. Riptire coming in right now for Tavik. He's got to run. He can't die with this ultimate up. He does, though. Tavik gets him with his own Riptire. That is not great for New York. Art can't bring him back up right now, it looks like. Tavik getting another one. Swoosh onto Mana now. Falls to Pine in the meantime. Tavik under pressure. Low, but still alive for the moment. Now the self-destruct for Florida on the point. Manitin taken out by the Pulse Bomb. And Pine and Jonak.
Libero has the Riptire. Can he get anybody? Can he get Zemisai? He does!
Oh, he gets two.
two!
Tavik, and that's it. They couldn't stay on the point, and it is a draw.
Oh, man, that Riptire from spawn, basically. And Florida Mayhem have nobody on that point.
Man, it was so close. But in the end, Jonak able to have that healing along with their Tracer, Pine, just to stay alive just long enough for that Riptire to get there.
Yeah, scary. But that will be the New York Excelsior drawing on Horizon, and we are going to head into probably Pine's best map of Ilios after the break.
Yeah, that one was rough for New York, but a lot to look forward to if you're a Pine fan. His best map, Ilios, for Control coming up. But Florida really showing up here in the series so far. We'll be back with more Overwatch action right after this.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. And by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League.
And welcome back, everyone. New York is up 1-0 at the half, and a draw on Horizon is where we are right now. I'm Golden Boy, and this has been a great matchup so far. And for Florida, they're showing some real guts, and that is exactly what you want to see. And one player in particular that I have to highlight is Logic's, Bren, because you're giving him that opportunity to really be a disruptor, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, he is. I mean, on the first map, we saw Eichenwald, a different style of Florida, not quite a different style, actually, that's probably a bad way to put it, but Logic's was sort of performing at his old peak levels in a lot of senses. He was given a lot of space. We mentioned this in the pre-show as well, how this was New York's downfall, if there was going to be any, was them giving Florida Mayhem a little bit too much space to work with. So Florida was really working his magic along with Tavik. You can see, look at this guy hitting all sorts of shots all day long. This is absolutely crazy. And Tavik on fire is another talking point here, because this strategy on Eichenwald seems to be one of the only things that is working for Florida right now.
Yes, but then when they went over to point B, as you can see here, JJoNak had huge amounts of cleanup in all of these plays, had a ridiculous amount. He led final blows on Eichenwald across both teams with 10 kills. And there was nothing that Florida could really do to be able to get up the hill. Kind of, they're challenging vertical authority there when they're trying to push up the castle. So it worked out slightly less well for them going on B, but it definitely was good on the A attack.
You can definitely tell that Florida, they had like just a great plan going into it, and then after that it began to fizzle out. New York started to really begin to find their bearings. But though I do have to highlight the A attack. You talked about this before from Florida, because NYXL, their defense really allowed Florida to kind of just like play around. And I know we're gonna do a telestration segment here, and look. I know everyone wants us to sing, but it's not going to happen. So it's a one-a-day kind of thing, kids. So why don't you run us through that?
Yeah, so I've got a illustration about the NYXL defense at the beginning. And I feel like NYXL have come into this whole match with the wrong game plan planning as Florida Mayhem. They are incredibly passive. So I'm just going to highlight some positioning for you here, coming out of the NYXL. So you can see that Mano here is hiding behind the corner on the Orisa. So he's not even providing shields for the rest of the team, he's just establishing a presence up the field. The main people to watch are these guys at the back though, because Libero, Pine, and Arc are all playing so far back. Look how much space the entirety of Florida is given. And as you see, that as we run this clip forwards, even when Florida are getting picks, and even when Florida move slightly forward into a more vulnerable zone, New York never step up the pace. They lose Pine, they just stay there, they're waiting for some kind of initiation. Arc manages to get the res back up, but at no point did New York take the initiative. And I feel like this was, it played out throughout Horizon as well. And if you're not putting pressure on Swoosh and Manitin, you're probably playing wrong against Florida, because those guys, to me, are the weaknesses. And when you put pressure on them, they start to underperform. And at the moment, you're just giving them all the space they need.
Yeah. Well done.
Well done.
I was saying that to New York, not you. You were average.
Yeah,
you were okay. But New York did well.
I like being here because I feel like I bring out the savagery of the Brenji over there. This is good. This is good.
They keep me chained up normally,
I know, but I just released the shackles of the Brenji. I love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and shift focus over to Horizon in Sideshow. Again, over to you here, because Pine on defense. This was a weird game for New York, by the way.
It really was.
One thing that Monty said that I did want to quote was that New York looked disjointed, and it was just really weird.
Yes, and Monty also referenced that adding Pine into this lineup when you're playing Pine and Libero doesn't allow them to do their usual strategy. So for me, this indicates that they're looking towards playoffs, they're trying to save things. But when you look at Pine playing on the defense here, playing the Widowmaker, you can see that they aren't putting Libero over on the Junkrat either, and he was aiming not to do damage to Manitin and Swoosh as they came in, because otherwise Zupir builds up his Valkyrie too quickly. So essentially what you're doing is just inviting an engagement onto you. And we saw in the previous game, right, with Boston, if you allow teams to set up, they're going to execute so much better. And I feel like at the moment they're giving Swoosh and Manitin way too much room.
One player, though, who has been shining has been Tavik on the Sombra, which has been fun to get Sombra into the fold here and really just giving Florida some great attacks, Brent.
Yeah, and this is actually like one of the shining points for Florida that I wanted to point out, was the fact that they were running this composition and it worked especially well. Is the fact that, look at Tavik, he's still got the EMP, still holding onto it because he knows that they eventually have to play the point, and the only players left now are the supports. As soon as he sees JJoNak on the field, boom, EMP gets popped off, brings JJoNak down to 50 HP, easy clean-up across the board. But again, that sort of highlights as well the issues that New York has been having in terms of they're playing passive, not really punishing the tank play of Florida, which is their main weak point still. And they did get sort of rolled over a little bit there in terms of the time bank in the end. And you saw, unfortunately, still ended up in the draw for Florida, but still, they did show that New York Excel could bleed.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, into the extra rounds there, it was just overall, man, again, like weird. That was the theme of this game, was just weird if you're an NYXL fan.
Yes, Pine died twice on Tracer right at the beginning, so it only gives them 5 seconds to be able to get onto the point, and that's the NYXL push just completely ruined. Much like this replay. But but Pine, as they came into it, 2 picks on the Tracer really early on, and he was dead. So that doesn't allow them to set up. And then when they're on the defense, again, he's playing the Tracer, and we saw this Junkrat offense come out. And I thought it was actually pretty beautiful coming out from Florida Mayhem, because they set themselves up to get an advantage in the Valkyrie. They're not doing any damage and only taking damage so that they build up their Mercy ultimate. And then they had one fight that they needed to win to be able to win the map. And unfortunately, they crumbled and they weren't able to deliver with it. But overall, it's a decent plan. I feel like Florida making the most of this space given to them so far.
All right, so you're New York in this situation, Bren. You are the entirety of the state of New York.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to make a decision here. What are you going to do? Do you keep Pine in? Do you bring in Sabiobi? Because this should have been an easy matchup for you, no?
I think you give up because you've already shown that you just can't play against Florida. EU bias, EU all the way. I think Florida are going to be taking this one now. I'm going to change my prediction. I'm going to completely ignore your question as well as change my prediction. So unfortunate, really, for you.
You know what? You know what? This is it. I can't handle the shenanigans here, these 2 Brits. This is too much for me to handle. I'm one man. We're just going to go to a break, though. When we come back, it's going to be Ilios. Can New York get that win, or will Florida put one on the board? We'll see you in a few.
Overwatch League is brought to you by Sour Patch Kids. Sour, sweet, gone.
NYXL have been stomping through the competition like a fresh new pair of Timberland boots. Speaking of which, has anybody photoshopped a pair of Timbs on Sapiovi or any of the members of NYXL? Really, that needs to be a meme or something. Somebody make that a thing. Anyways, guys, the Florida Mayhem, they can possibly mess up their traction because they're one game away from going on to that playoff spot. So let's jump into map 2 and see what happens with Monty and Doe.
All right, thanks, Malik. You know, they say those boots were made for walking, but so far, New York has had trouble walking over Florida the way that a lot of us expected here. Florida definitely putting up a fight.
We're on Ilios now. This is where the Timberland stomping is going to begin, I'm afraid, for you Florida fans. Because right now, New York only needs to win after that draw. One more map of the last 2. Ilios is definitely where you want to play with Pine, and he has had his best games on this map.
That's right. Janice subbing in for Mono, so a little bit of a tank swap here for New York Excelsior. And yeah, you know, you and I were talking about this during the break, where it really feels like this match is a good sort of case for why Pine shouldn't maybe be played in every game. He is very good on maps like Ilios, where he can just roam around, get kills, kind of play the deathmatch game. But on these other maps, he really does kind of have this anti-synergy with the way New York likes to play the game. And this match has been a great illustration of that.
Yeah, he does go wild sometimes, but the price of that, as we saw, is if you're expecting him to come on a lot of those flanks, Florida was playing well, and they picked him up enough times to really stall out a lot of those attacks on Horizon. And I also think part of this, Doa, is that we really see New York playing as standard could be. They're playing Tracer Genji dive. They are very clearly not showing anything out of the usual that could be used against them later this week in the stage playoffs.
That's a good point, too. I mean, you need to conceal everything you've got here if you're looking towards actually winning this stage. So can't blame them.
Also, you know, we see Libero on Tracer a lot of the time, which we very rarely see. So
yeah, true.
They've certainly taken a lot of new looks here in terms of who's playing the heroes on their roster, even if it's pretty standard for the meta team compositions overall.
Yeah, another fun tidbit about that last map on Lunar Colony, Jonak did the most damage on his team, which we've seen before, but it is always kind of a fun stat to bring up.
Well, we definitely do expect that, and as we see, Pine kills the most people on Ilios, which is certainly reflective of the eye test that we've had from Pine. Will be Lighthouse first.
That's right. Arc dies the least. And so, Florida Mayhem moving out with Zebasai, sticking to that Lucio. He likes to play it when he can, and Lighthouse is certainly one of those places where you can do it. Trying to block the door for the moment. Now the dive comes in. They're going to turn right around onto Swoosh, but Pine falls in the process as well. There goes Jonak to Vic, landing a rocket from on high. Meko comes back with a kill on the Zebasai. There goes Logic.
Meko.
What a brawl, but Meko just going wild on this diva. I believe that was 4.
Yeah, he got 3 and the mech, so it's still a 3v3. Libero, Jonas, and
4.
Meko still alive, and Meko gets another one, so no more Zupe. And against all odds, thanks to Meko being the janitor and cleaning up that fight.
No kidding. Meko just deciding that he's just going to win this fight on his own.
It was a really deep dive by the Florida Mayhem, and getting very close to those Diva guns and missiles can be a hazard.
Yep. True enough. And now New York able to play the defensive game here, as they like to do, as Florida comes back on there. Zebasai not lasting too long. Swoosh kind of holding in the door, but after Manitin getting demeched here, this push is looking a little bit like it's already done.
Yeah, Pine gets the targets close, fans the hammer, and they're just drawing Florida in. They know they have to play aggressively onto the point. And after they leap in, it's an easy cleanup kill.
Yep.
On the side of New York. Florida still trying to get some ultimates online to work with and have an effective push right now, but in the interim, they sure have been feeding a lot of ult charge over to the side of the Excelsior.
Now the ult's starting to come in for New York as well. Tvik staying way back on that far up, making it hard to do damage with that McCree, but oh, Pine, you didn't see the Diva coming, did you? Now the Pulse Bomb comes in, Libero trying to equalize. Arc brings Pine back into the fray again. Oh, and actually, Tvik not getting a lot of use out of that barrage, taken out almost immediately. On the point right now, though, maybe the tanks can brawl it out.
Looks like it's going to be that self-destruct, but not a whole lot coming out of it for Florida. Tvik gets the kill on Nemeko, but Manitin forced away. He's nearly out of the mech again. Yep, there he goes.
Well, Zebasai dying with that sound barrier up basically gave no hope of actually finishing this map right now. Swoosh will be blocking that pulse bomb.
Yep.
With the help of his barrier, but they're not going to be able to flip that point. So they come back. Zebasai and the rest of the Mayhem will need to be decisive as they zip onto the point with the sound barrier. Tvik now going to be changing over to Genji. He wants the sound barrier to get resets onto the point. I like this switch up.
Oh, Swoosh way on his own, man. Nobody else around, and he dies immediately. He had to get overtime going, but now everybody coming in one at a time, and that is not how you win a fight in Overwatch.
Well, Zebasai only sound barriered himself, so there wasn't going to be any cover. They were trying to get onto the point so desperately to cause overtime that ultimate basically had no value.
Yep, OT ticking down now. Florida trying to delay as long as they possibly can to pick on the Genji, but it won't last too long. There it is ticking away, and NYXL taking Lighthouse 100-0.
Convincing. It looked so good at the start of that first fight for the Mayhem, but Meko turned it around, and their defense was stalwart, and now we'll see what we get next. It's like it's going to be Ruins for our second point, so some more opportunities to see Pine on the Widowmaker, and we'll see where we're going with the strategy from the Mayhem.
You know, in a game like Overwatch that seems so obsessed with railings, then you go to Ilios, and there's no railings on the giant cliff by the ocean or around the well that leads to Oblivion.
How about, you know, none here on the Ruins?
Oh, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no railings by the lighthouse either. So somehow, some way, whoever's been going around the world in the future in Overwatch, putting railings on everything is missed grease, I guess.
I like how the railings are only there in the places where you can't take fall damage. It's like so illogical.
Oh, Pine! What a pick on the Zebasai, man. Threading the needle on that one. Tvik striking right back, though.
It's not going to matter. Arc is going to be the one with the resurrection. And Zebasai has to respawn. Libero was standing on top of his body, making sure that the Mayhem were not going to be able to revive him.
That's how you do it, and NYXL will get the control percent going first.
So clean start here for the New York Excel.
Yep.
Echo going to be looking over the side right here. Take the orb of discord, but back off immediately afterward.
And they'll continue to hold for the moment. Florida pressuring a little bit. Libero on the flank now.
Yeah, Libero just trying to be annoying. So we can get that pulse bomb onto a support or a tank once he charges it up. Still going to find the support on this side, but not going to win the duel. Zippe.
He's got it, man. He wins that one. Meanwhile, Swoosh has to back away. He was low health. Florida nearly flipping it, but they haven't gotten it quite yet. Jonak coming in. He's got the Transcendence if he needs to. But no, he is down to Tvik with another sniper kill from that Widowmaker. Florida all over this one. Mano trying to, or Janice rather, trying to dive back in, but he can't survive even with the Transcendence there. Maybe the reses from Arc will be enough if he can even get there and use him. No, it didn't work out. And it looks like Florida will be able to successfully flip this one.
Very sloppy right there from the New York Excelsior, using both support ultimates and still losing out in that fight. Zebasai going to be feeling great as he gets closer to that Valkyrie. They needed to pull out of that engagement much faster than they did. Instead, New York doubles down, and they are massively punished for it.
Sure enough. 50 control percent is what they achieved here, and no, Pine, it's like skeet shooting, man. He was ready to hit that clay pigeon named Tvik. That analogy didn't work out.
Tvik the pigeon.
Pine got the kill anyway, though. Janice striking back, though, with that primal rage. Zebasai, Zupa all go down, and NYXL in a great position to flip this one back again. Nice shot by Jonak.
And
the final kill there.
A very strange fight where the Valkyrie is only there to stop the bleeding, as it had to be used initially to make sure that Tvik was going to be back up and available on that Widowmaker. And then some stall on the point by the Mayhem, but it was just a waiting game for New York. Still no ultimates for them. Zippe can use his Transcendence to brawl it out on the point itself.
Yep. Pine finding some pressure from the side. Swoosh coming in with the dive. He's got the tanks there to support him. Pine still dueling with Tvik. It's been fun to watch, but Manitin gets a kill into Arc to start things off. Good start, great start for Florida as Manitin gets 2. Now Jonak falls as well. Florida with a resounding team fight win here.
Yeah, this is just has to be a cleanup right now on the point.
Yep.
Everybody just trying to die on the side of New York. They did get it back. And so 92% will be the number it stops at. Florida starts to build up again. Arc is coming back with a Valkyrie. Means Tvik is going to have to pick him off somehow. Maybe they'll get lucky or have a great flick shot here or to seal the deal for Florida.
Oh, Jonak very, very low. Right click avoided. Swoosh comes in for the kill. Now Logic's putting some pressure onto Janice here. Pine goes down to Vic, winning another sniper duel, and New York has to back away.
Tvik winning a lot of the duels so far when
Yeah.
it comes to Widowmakers on this map. New York does not actually try and resurrect Jonak out of that fight. They instead decide to save their Valkyrie, but that means Zebasai will be able to match now. They missed a timing window.
Yeah, Zebasai pops that Valkyrie actually. As the fight begins, NYXL probably pretty happy about that one. Jonak does go down, but it looks like Florida wants to just finish it right here, right now. Arc brings Jonak back up again. NY trying to get to the point, trying to flip it here. We're into overtime. They got to get people on here. Right now, the tanks in action, the Primal Rage, and there's the Transcendence now on the side of Florida. Zupa keeping his tanks very healthy. Jonak coming in with a little bit later one. Can they turn that into kills, though? It's looking good for Florida at the moment. Libero needs to come up big here. He needs a ton of picks here. They've still got Jonak. They've still got Arc.
And it's not.
Maybe that's just barely enough, yeah.
They're going to flip it, Doa, and the big part of that was Pine was resurrected, killed Tvik, then killed Zebasai on the Mercy. So there was no more healing at New York. The easy cleanup on the point, and that's going to be it.
And that's why you play Pine on control. When it came to the clutch, Pine found the kills.
There was no, the thing is, once Tvik was down in that fight, everybody else from both teams had to be on the point itself. And then it's just a shooting gallery for the Widowmaker, right? You don't have an enemy Widow counter-sniping you at all. You can shoot into the point all day, takes out the Mercy, and then deals the damage for the rest of his teammates.
Florida Mayhem still making New York Excelsior work for it on Ruins, but in the end, NYXL will take the 2-0 on Ilios. They are up 2 maps in the series, but still 1 to go here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
a league that offers opportunity for talented competitors to test and push our assumptions about how the game is meant to be played.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming at you live from Los Angeles, California. Welcome to the Blizzard Arena.
Well, guys, NYXL has won this series. They're up 2-0 right now because we had that tie on Lunar Colony a little bit earlier, but still, 1 map to go, Monte Cristo, Junkertown, and a chance for Florida to at least take something.
Well, I think this is going to be difficult because Dorado is by far their best escort map, and New York, they are still going to be concerned with winning this map score. Yes, they are definitely in the Stage 1 playoffs right now, but there is a big difference between 1 and 2 and 3 because you have to play an entire extra match in order to actually win the stage at that point instead of just waiting as the final boss at the top of the ladder.
Very true. Mano coming in for Janus, another tank swap for NYXL as we go into Junkertown, our final map of this series.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens here on Junkertown. We've seen the Mayhem not look particularly good on this map overall. They've run some very interesting strategies with Sombra on defense on this map, which we haven't seen from a lot of the other teams. And on the side of New York, of course, we have seen a lot of that pretty classic Roadhog, Orisa, Widow, Junkrat on defense. They haven't done anything too strange recently.
Sure.
And it looks like we will see perhaps Zippe on the Bastion, which is how they have played this map previously when the Mayhem have been on attack. But it's not going to be really surprising, I think, for the New York as they play defense.
Yep, I would think so. Florida Mayhem on the attack once more. New York will be defending as we get things started, and like you said, it's been interesting to watch today because Florida has really kind of, or rather New York has really kind of had to work for these wins.
Yeah, they have.
Lunar Colony, they tied there. You know, Oasis, Ruins looked a little bit shaky here and there.
As the desk was saying, they've been giving Florida a long time to set up.
True.
And if you give them that much time to set up, they are going to be able to make plays on you eventually. And New York needs to stop that on this final map, take every map they can as they head into the stage playoffs and make sure that they position themselves in the best possible seating.
Right. Well, Pine will be in his element one more time here on the Widowmaker.
And that was the end of Ruins right there, as we could see. Was having a hard time versus Tavik at the beginning, but it was like shooting fish in the barrel during that overtime because nobody could actually try and get into the back line and stop the damage from coming in after he won the last duel against Tavik.
Well, the real hero of some of this has been Ark, kind of getting the reses at just the right time, bringing Pine back up there. Zupa firing away on that Bastion as Florida trying to get started here on their attack on Manitin, looking for an early hook here.
This is the New York. They see the Bastion coming out, they see the Widowmaker on the flank, and they are going to pull all the way back to the second choke point. It's a lot safer to deal with when it comes to making sure you're not positioned to get grabbed around a corner by the attacking Orisa.
Yep. Anakin sees Meko, decides to get back over to his team right now. Doesn't want to take any chances here. Jonak on that Roadhog. So something that may seem a bit odd if you've never watched this team before, but they've actually played him on that hero quite a bit. There goes Libero. Early kill for Manitin here.
Yeah, a lot of the teams, Seoul does this as well.
Yep.
Houston does this as well, putting one of their flex supports onto the Roadhog instead, but the hooks keep coming in, and Manitin helping the Florida Mayhem make some headway.
Yep, that's right. The combo working out. And Zupa's just kind of there behind the shield. Ooh, Meko gets demaced, and there's another kill on the Jonak in the meantime. Tavik finding the picks as well. Zebasai falls, but it doesn't look like it's going to stop Florida from getting to point A. And one last shot from Tavik onto Pine to seal the deal. And Florida takes a pretty smooth point A.
Well, that's a pretty important kill, too. It's actually going to change the spawn location all the way back.
Yeah.
So he's not going to be able to help out in the taking of the high ground. In the meantime, New York trying to push forward, but swoosh. And the Bastions of Bay are already here. This is where we see a lot of the Bastions try and post up in the center of the map, be able to cover the payload and the future route of the payload at the same time.
Wow, Jonak decides he's had enough of this Tavik sniper stuff and takes him out on the Zenyatta. Soup on the run here. We do have a Riptire coming in for Libero somewhere.
Yeah, Libero actually didn't get a kill off of that Riptire. Was trying to
not.
find that Mercy, and
Yeah.
looks like it exploded pretty early. Logix has been pushing the payload this entire time on the Tracer.
Man, Florida's playing this so methodically here. It's impressive. Oh, Manhattan down, though. Yeah, dangerous to be in that hallway. Zupa has to back away. Meanwhile, the payload's still moving until right now as NYXL drops down. Zebasai did bring Manhattan back up again. So they've got their Roadhog, but now they are without their Bastion. Zupa drops that supercharger. That's a bold move for Florida as they try to finish off New York here.
And Jonak is going to take out Logix in the backline. So Logix trying to pick up a kill onto the support instead. Gets some just desserts as Jonak turns around and takes out the Tracer, and that'll be the end of this push. What a Mayhem playing so tentatively. They waited a long time to try and push that high ground with the Bastion. Now they're not going to be able to use it. They do switch back over to the Zenyatta, but they basically just waited for the D.Va and for the Junkrat to corner them in that corridor and deal all that splash damage.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh, dangerous move by Arc as he swoops in here to get the res onto Mono. Pine gets the kill on the Logix, though. Now the Riptire coming in for Libero again. See if he can find anybody hiding around the side. Gets in the back. There's a kill. No, he nearly killed Manhattan. Mano has to finish him off. Swoosh brought back up by Zebasai in the meantime, but Libero takes him out with the concussion mine. So New York finally getting a little bit of stability here on point B.
Zebasai, no value out of the Valkyrie there. Arc using his at the same time. Late resurrection. Onto the tank, and they can't actually capitalize on it. He was already deep back behind with the supports and the DPS of New York, so they quickly collapse on him and turn the fight around. So now they're going to be sitting for a while here, looks like. Tavik wants to play the Genji. They want to play dive for the high ground, so a lot of changes coming through from the side of Florida.
Yeah, we'll see how well New York can control that room here. See if they can keep Florida from coming through.
I think it's going to be really hard for them to dive as long as Jonas has the Transcendence.
Seems that way. Pine backing away, puts on the Venom. Turn around, Logix
well,
gets through the Pulse Bomb.
You can do.
Oh, yeah, that works. Arc, one of the victims, so that's no mercy now for New York. They're going to have a hard time holding this payload.
Yeah, New York got a bit cocky right there. They didn't know the Pulse Bomb was up. And considering the Transcendence is healing over time, the burst damage can still take you down. So a big, big bomb.
And no support. No chance for NYXL. Florida Mayhem going to make a lot of progress here towards the end of point B. Let's check out that replay, see exactly how Logix put this one down.
Yeah, the setup was pretty good here. And they were anticipating the Transcendence coming out. Zones out Pine, sees everybody. He's just clustered on that high ground trying to get the healing from the Trance, and that's a good punish from the side of the Mayhem.
Yeah, point B taken by Florida Mayhem. They've got 3 minutes on the clock now to try to finish this one up. And NYXL has won a couple fights, but mostly just been kind of bullied around here by Florida so far in Junkertown.
I'm surprised Pine wants to stay with the Widowmaker right now. Now that Florida has revealed that they are playing the dive comp with Genji and Tracer, maybe McCree would be the best option to punish this a little bit harder.
Might be a bit overly bold, but Swoosh diving in, getting taken down early here. Vic puts up the reflect. Pine dies anyway. Manhattan finding that kill, perhaps with the Bunny Blaster. I think he might have gotten it that way. Here comes the Dragon Blade now. Jonak down already before Tavik can even get him. Gets found in a trap, roasted by Mono. And Zebasai brings out the Battle Mercy, actually taking out Libero. And Florida will continue to roll forward for the moment.
Yeah, Arc really doesn't want to use his Valkyrie right now, but he may have to. Libero, the last one to spawn. Payload still coming around the U-bend. Florida on a good time right now for their attack, but they have to finish this out.
Yeah, here's where it gets tough here. Manhattan trying to claim the high ground as the respawns for NYXL come in. They've got a lot of ults to work with. Manhattan comes in. He's got that self-destruct, trying to get the kill on the Jonak. They will. Riptire doesn't do anything. The res comes in for Jonak. The Primal Rage was used by Swoosh. He did survive the Riptire from it. Arc has a couple reses. Now Logic trying to get a little bit of damage in, but has to back away with that Transcendence up. A lot of low health people on his team, and yeah, Mayhem force back. That's going to be the end of that push. Mano getting 3, getting 4 in that fight.
Well, Mayhem's still going to be pretty happy with how that went, all things considered. They're coming up on a Dragon Blade. They're coming up on a Valkyrie for themselves, and they saw the Transcendence and the Val come out of the other side. So, all things considered, they can still finish this map, absolutely. And they set themselves into a good place to do it, but they can't get all chunked out there by the Junkrat grenades. A Riptire could really be bad news for them.
Libero's really close to getting it too. Logic's had that pulse bomb, didn't come up with anything out of it this time. No big pick like we saw on point B. Now Pine getting aggressive here. Can he finish off Zupa? He's got the back, he's got the health pack. There's a recall as well. Still holding that pulse bomb. Logix does fall, so already New York with a bit of an edge, and Pine deciding he can just hold on to this one for now.
Yeah, Pine gonna drop down to the low ground, and Florida, they want to wait for their respawns now and have a big final push with a wealth of ultimates available to them. But Arc, they've waited so long, Arc nearly has his Valkyrie in return.
Yeah, Florida Mayhem maybe a bit too passive here. Riptire incoming. It's a kill onto Tavik. So Florida short-handed here. They do not have a lot of people left. The res is coming in, but there goes Zupe. Now the Zenyatta out of commission. Zonak striking in as well. Zebasai with one last res on that Zenyatta. Libero finds a lot of members of Florida in that little hallway. They've got the Transcendence, and Florida on the run. Tavik low gets the reflect up, but it's not going to be enough. Both supports down as well. Zebasai out of commission, and Mano batting people around with his hands of fate, and that will be New York Excelsior holding at the very end of Junkertown.
That's right, 83 meters, how far the Mayhem get it. So least into point C, even if they don't finish the map, New York have a ways to go on this map.
Yeah. Now Florida nearly getting it all the way there, but that last bend into spawn on point C is so hard to push through if your momentum gets broken. The respawns are right there, and there's not a whole lot of different angles you can come from. It's fairly linear.
Well, I think Florida, though, they waited too long at the end. If you look at the timing window that they had, instead, they sort of waited in those choke points and allowed themselves to get held up by the NYXL, and that gave Arc enough time to rebuild his Valkyrie up and at least match them in terms of support ults, which makes it very hard to finish out that map.
True. It seemed like Florida got a little bit split up in that last attack too. Half of them kind of bottled up in that side room, taking a lot of damage from Libero on that Junkrat.
Yeah.
So New York with a chance to win another map here, and like we mentioned before, even though they've already won this series, the individual map score is really important when you think about trying to hold on to #1 in the league. And that's the difference on Saturday if we look a little bit farther ahead between playing 2 matches to try to win that extra money here at the end of the stage or only having to play 1.
Yeah,
so it's a big deal.
It is super important. And
yeah.
Let's take a look at what Zebasai is going to do. They are back to their Sombra defense ways.
What is
unique
Zupa doing?
Flavor from the Florida Mayhem.
It's kind of trying to pound a hole in the wall. This isn't Minecraft, man. You can't get me there. There you go. Bit odd. Sometimes Mercy gets frustrated, you know. Can't blame him.
Jonak is going to be on the Roadhog now, so pretty much the same strategy that we saw from the Mayhem. Starting off here, and
that's right.
Going with a single support, pick-heavy composition.
Yeah, no Bastion for NYXL, but they've traded that for more pick potential here. Goes for a hook on the Sombra, can't quite find it though. Jonak taking some shots from Tavik on the other side.
Yeah, there you go. There's a nice start. Tavik will take out Libero.
That'll work
He's
well.
in a place where he can't be resurrected. Zebasai is still on the flank, using that translocator just to be annoying.
Oh, Jonak needs to be careful here. Finally, Meko coming in to try to save him. Meko D-Mech though on that high ground. Has to be careful, and now Jonak senses blood in the water. There's a kill onto Swoosh, and the payload is going to move.
Now they're going to work their way around the corner right now. Where is the Florida Mayhem? Are they going to try and stop this? They're slowly making their way all the way around the other side of the payload.
Trying to kind of keep people safe until the respawns come back. Oh, but Zebasai falls. And so that means no EMP for the end of this point.
I wonder if they're going to stay on the Sombra, though. I'm really not convinced by the Sombra defense that we've seen from the Mayhem on this point. I have never seen it really work.
Yeah, I agree. Mano does go down. Zupa pops that Valkyrie, brings a couple up. Here comes Libero with the kill onto Logix. They're trying to slowly grind away at the members of New York. Pine backing off here, and he's got to fight Zupa. No, Zupa wins a 1v1 against Pine. And Florida looks like they're going to barely hold here on point A.
I mean, Libero, Jonak, and Meko are still up, though, Doa. There is no more EMP. Libero is just throwing mines into the fight.
Yeah, Zupa does go down. And you do have that respawn advantage on the attack here in Junkertown. And that's going to be point A. They grind it out.
I'm really surprised that the EMP was used so early by Zebasai, trying to save it, but unfortunately that meant that with the Valkyrie up on the side of Arc that he was able to get some of their tanks back online, and Libero was in a position where he could just rain those grenades and concussion mines in from above behind the barriers. So now New York going to be moving up onto point B, still plenty of time for them to work with, and we're not even really going to see the Florida Mayhem able to get into a solid position here to start their defense. They're just going to have to dive in.
Now Pine getting to pick on the Tvik, that's not going to do them any favors either. Libero unassailed here. The little choke. Florida losing more even as they try to set up that defense.
And now they're going to be pushed all the way back. Mecco is on the hunt right now, being sent up there. And Pine will be looking through some of these corridors. Is he going to stay on the Widowmaker for point C? I don't think we're going to see. Florida's just going to give this one up. They don't want to fight right now, especially with Logic's down.
Yep. It's going into point 3 already. 5 minutes in the clock for NYXL. And remember, they don't need to finish this one. They just need to get it about 2/3 of the way there. Jonak saying, yeah, I'll take a little bit of damage. Sure. Why not? Oh, the disrespect.
Just saying hi. It's being friendly, though.
Well, it was a disrespectful hi, though. There was meaning behind that wave. Read between the lines, man. Pine taken out by Logix. Jonak, though, turning around, getting one in revenge. Here comes the Riptire now from Libero. Getting in from behind. Oh,
gonna get Zupe.
Zupe.
At the end, Zebasai, they swapped those rolls off. So Zebasai now on the Zenyatta. And they're going to keep on pushing here. Nothing seeming to stop New York.
Yeah, that's right. They continue to roll on, and Florida Mayhem on their last legs here. They've got the respawns, but they don't really have any else to work with. They might have the Valkyrie soon, but Tvik falls again.
And Logic's on the back of the payload right now, just trying to stop it from moving even a little bit further.
There's one. Zebasai fall to a headshot from Pine. And now Florida scrambling to try and defend this payload. Mecco there with the self-destruct, though. Could use it. Jonak just pops a whole hog, pushes them all back, and NYXL takes a convincing Junkertown.
And that'll be a big win for New York. They are going to finish 3-0 with the draw that we saw on Horizon. They are setting themselves up and to be the #1 seed on Saturday, but they have a hard match ahead of them against London.
Yeah, they do. Man, that series is going to be awesome. Can't wait for that. And New York probably wishes they could have finished that one a little bit cleaner. 4 wins or 4 map wins is a little bit better than 3, but hey, I mean, there's only so much you can do when Florida came to play.
I really, despite this win from New York, I do think that we saw a lot out of Florida today and some improvements, especially Logix in the first half, I think was doing better than we've seen him do on stage in a while. Yeah. And at least their setups were good. Their executions looked a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that stuck out more than anything to me with Florida is the execution of a lot of these pushes. A lot of these defenses looked a lot tighter than we're used to. So, a little bit of a bright spot for Florida despite the loss, but New York going to grab back #1 in the standings for now. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be back to have the desk break that one down in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League. Intel, the official computer processor of the Overwatch League. And by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network.
All right, everyone, welcome back, as that was NYXL just giving Florida business. But Florida, though, they did manage to have some bright spots there. Overall, though, you have to commend Florida for their performance. This definitely was something that I don't think a lot of us had expected coming into this. A lot of us wrote off Florida.
Yes, and I think the overall performance here is optimistic, looking towards stage 2 as well, particularly when we're expecting the metagame to change a little bit with the Mercy and Junkrat changes. They can pick up new players in the mid-season. I feel like they're starting to solve some of the issues that made them go downhill at the beginning of the season.
I'll agree with that. I think we saw a lot more of the old Logics, right? The Logics that was feared in Europe and beyond. I mean, I would talk to pro players back in the day and they'd be like, Logics is the best tracer currently in the game right now. We didn't really see that. We haven't seen it too much this league so far in the Overwatch League, but I think today we saw a few glimpses of him. So I'm hoping, you know, that we start to continue that path for Florida. They start to take that momentum into stage 2 a little bit.
We know that this is a great team, and we're just waiting for them to really, I guess, light the fire from underneath them. But there was a couple of unfortunate moments there, Sideshow, because there was one moment in particular I want to highlight with Zebasai. The casters did talk about it. It was a sound barrier where he only caught himself. Let's take a look at this here.
Yes, and what we can see here is that Zebasai and the rest of the Florida Mayhem are coming around the side angle here. And what they're attempting to do is get to the point incredibly quickly, because you can see that the time is ticking. It's at 98%. And so we just want to highlight what happened here, because it didn't catch it quite so well on the main camera, so that you can see that as they go forwards, they need somebody to touch the point, trigger this overtime. Swoosh just about gets there. And Zebasai, you can see as I just pause it again, feels like he needs to pop the sound barrier off. Unfortunately, Swoosh is locked out there, out of line of sight, and all of the rest of his team is still around the other side of the corner. So Zebasai just gets absolutely no value out of that sound barrier, but what he was aiming to do is keep Swoosh alive on the point so that he's able to extend the overtime. Now, if they got the overtime extended, they can use the sound barrier to delay perhaps later when the rest of his team gets around the corner. Perhaps this is some indication of a little bit of panic once it gets to these clutch situations. But that was just an overall idea of what went down in that fight.
Yeah, and you see it happen, and with all the insanity of the moment, right? Them scrambling to get to that point. Zeb had to make a call there, and that makes a lot of sense. But now we go over to the, and boys, say it with me, Pine Show, because Pine was all over the place in this game.
He really was. He was popping off. And on this stage in particular, Florida Mayhem did a really good job of trying to shut him down as much as possible. I like this more aggressive look, but as soon as the pressure's off, and even sometimes when the pressure is on, Pine was going wild. And particularly on Ruins, when we went over to here, he was hitting some crazy headshots.
Yeah, the mechanical skill of this guy, obviously, everybody knows by now, but this guy is an absolute beast on the control maps, especially Ilios. This is his playground. He just continually outperforms everyone else on Widowmaker, on McCree, and even we saw him flexing a little bit to the Tracer. I did say earlier he was a little bit lackluster on the Tracer, but understandably so. Not really his main role. He likes to play the Widowmaker and the McCree a lot more.
What you did swap your prediction.
Yeah. I swap it back now to New York.
That's not how it works. Literally nothing you can do is correct here.
No, I predict New York to win, and they did.
Yeah, definitely.
Again.
Okay, so despite Bren's terrible calls there, he did have a point, because Florida was making that comeback happen. They were looking great, and it was almost as if we were getting that, EU Contenders Season 1 team, the Misfits back at it one more time. So I like what I was seeing from this.
Yeah, there was a bit of a vibe of that coming out, wasn't there? And I think that was because they tried to play more aggressively. They realized if we've got all this space to work with, let's not just rely on individuals hitting shots. Let's actually coordinate as a team and push forward and use the room that NYXL are going to give us. I think NYXL will come up with that, against that when they go into the playoffs as well. A lot of teams are going to be playing aggressively into them. And Manitin, particularly on the Diva, normally a very passive player, protects his backline. A lot of the time now is going much more aggressively forwards, and Logic now has the friends he needs to be able to pick up the kills. Now, I think that kind of look of Florida Mayhem was very promising, but in the end, it wasn't enough, particularly on the defense.
Overwatch is always better with friends.
It is.
Fact.
That's
It
not
is.
true.
That's a fact.
I hate playing with a cast.
You need
They
to stop.
just throw all the time.
Let's go to Junkertown and talk about that, Brent. Listen, the Brengy antics need to be reeled in here, sir. Because now this was New York's chance to take this series, end this one out, and Pine once again lighting them up. But still, this matchup, you know, it gave us a little bit of Florida shining, and then NYXL taking that dub.
Like I said a little bit before, like whilst we were watching the game, but Tvik was actually outperforming Pine to begin with, but then Pine started warming up a little bit. I mean, we saw signs of life from Florida before in the forms of Logix and Tvik playing incredibly well, but Pine was not going to let them get away with much into the later stages of this map, and we definitely saw that in terms of his raw performance here, just hitting these incredibly tight shots once again, and even Zvik just, I mean, I didn't actually see this, but this is ridiculous. For some reason, Mercy players in the Overwatch League, they just never want to heal. They just want to whip out the blaster and
Very
go ham.
bloodthirsty.
Yeah. Very bloodthirsty.
And I think Junkertown was a tale of two halves because Florida Mayhem looked pretty decent actually when they were on the attack, as you watch in here. But as soon as New York got going, it was unstoppable. You know, they just rolled all the way to the end. I think one of the big things to take away from this game in general is that with Pine, they're able to coordinate aggressively really well. But with Sabiolbi, they're almost unbeatable on defense. And I think this is the look that they'll take into going into the playoffs. More playing around Sabiolbi, where they're able to completely shut down teams on the defense, and then they still have the coordination to be able, and the support ultimate usage to be able to grind out those wins on the attack. So I think that's more of the look that we'll see from NYXL in the playoffs.
Well, you know what? NYXL had a dominant performance there, winning it out. And our player of the match, brought to you by none other than Omen by HP, is actually going to be Arc, and we have Zoe down at the floor with Arc right now to get his thoughts.
I'm down here on the floor with Arc. Congratulations to you and your team. You're actually the first team to secure your spot in the Stage 1 playoffs. The seeding is yet to be determined, but you are definitely going to be in. But first, let's talk about the match we just saw against the Florida Mayhem. You were the clear favorites going into this. However, on Horizon, as well as some parts of Ilios, it looked rather close. Why do you think that is?
First, I think their DPS were really great. I think like Tvik and Logix was so great on those two maps, I think. And second, we're preparing for London right now, and the map pool is completely different. And I think that is one of the other factors.
All right, so definitely having that focus on London. You're going to play against them on Saturday. And there's a lot of mutual respect. London even voiced that they consider you guys the strongest team in the league. What does New York Excelsior need to do to defeat them?
I think we're thinking same as them. Like we're thinking the London is right now is really strongest enemy. So I think we should just try to shut their DPS down like we did in the Seoul match.
All right, well, we wish you and your team best of luck. Thank you so much for joining me. We're now heading back to our desk with Golden Boy.
Always good to hear from the man himself, Arc, and the respect that he has for the London Spitfire, and, you know, vice versa is always a good thing to see. But it comes down to the playoffs and making it to that final spot, the top three. That's right, folks. Let's go ahead and take a look at that league standing and see where we are right now, because as it currently stands, NYXL have secured their playoff spot, and now it's going to come down to seeding in that London Spitfire NYXL game.
Yes, and the seeding is really important because NYXL and London play each other on the Saturday in a regular stage game, and that, we assume, depending on how London-Houston goes after this, will decide the 1-2 kind of spot. And then there could be a rematch later on in the playoffs. There's so much kind of narrative and drama around these two teams, and they have great conflicting play styles.
Bren loves drama.
I do. I like. No, that's not true at all.
You
don't
love
tie
drama.
me in with those YouTubers, Golden Boy. Don't you dare. Listen, but I am super excited for these next few games because still the playoff race is there. Who is going to be in that third place spot? We don't know yet. There's so many variables to account for, and I honestly feel like there's a potential storyline here where New York and London are prepping so much for themselves. It's the third team who's coming in is just going to sneak on by and possibly steal it away from them. There's a lot of potential for some sneaky plays to happen.
Man, you better quit your playing. You know you love that drama.
No,
You know you're about that life, baby.
No. I mean, yeah, that would be my second job. If it wasn't commentator, I'd be making YouTube vlog drama series.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, it's going to be our match of the night. The London Spitfire will take on the Houston Outlaws. Will London continue to fly high, or will the Houston Outlaws ante up? Find out after this.